What's up, everybody? Coach CeeLo here, and welcome to the No Bullshit Six-Figure Sales Podcast. And today we have got a repeat offender. We have got one of our favorites from all of the interviews we've done so far. We got a heck of a lot of comments on here. But first of all, before I reintroduce him, I want to put this in perspective. So I'm at the office with some friends, and we hear the news that Epic Fury is starting. And all of a sudden, I remember that one of my friends was going to go to vacation to Thailand. I don't remember wherever, somewhere else in the Southeast, aside from Thailand. But they were stopping in Dubai and Abu Dhabi first. So this next guest, while Epic Fury was going on, while then Iran was retaliating and attacking Dubai and Abu Dhabi and all the rest of the Middle East, he was in the middle of it all. We literally spoke on WhatsApp as this stuff was happening. So that's got to be one of the first things I want to talk about. But without any further ado, timeshare sales beast, VP of sales in the past, in charge of whole sales floors, in charge of whole companies, and right now, currently, the number one salesman in his company, my good friend, Carlos Rodriguez. How you doing, man?
Good, brother. Thanks for having me back.
We got some stories this time, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We got some good ones.
All right. So I think just take it from what I was saying, man, because it was supposed to be you were going to end up in Thailand, and where was the other place?
Yeah, so I decided that I wanted to do a trip around the world. So we started obviously out of Miami. We went to Istanbul. From Istanbul to Dubai. And first few days in Dubai, great. Having a great time. All of a sudden, I'm walking around the Miracle Gardens in Dubai, which is beautiful. Not a cloud in the sky. And all of a sudden, I hear this like very loud thump, but very low decibel that you felt the wave in the air. And I couldn't figure out, I'm like, that was an explosion. I couldn't figure out what it was, but I knew it was an explosion. I'm like, wow, that was loud. About 20 seconds go by and another one, boom. And finally, I decided to look up and I see two puffs of clouds in the clear blue sky, and it was two ballistic missiles that were intercepted literally right above my head.
Whoa.
Like the first two ever launched out of the war. So that was interesting. At that point in time, we're like, we better
shelter in place.
We better go somewhere where there's not gonna be no debris falling on us. So then all of a sudden, we're gonna be okay. We went back to the hotel. We continued about our day. We went to dinner. That night, I actually had dinner at a restaurant called Atmosphere, which is on the top of the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world.
That's ballsy.
Yeah. So again, that would be like a major target, right? But I had reservations, and they said nothing to worry about. Everything's good. I'm like, screw it, let's go. Typically, that's a Michelin star restaurant, and typically you need reservations way in advance. Place is always packed. There was two couples total in the entire restaurant.
You had the whole place to yourself.
The whole place to yourself. Yeah. So as we're finishing dinner, you start hearing about missiles. I'm like, we better get off this tower. So we got off the tower, and on the second or third day, I was tired of being, because they were like, you kept getting, like the alerts on your phone that says incoming missiles, please seek shelter. And it says it in Arabic and English. And so, at the beginning, everybody's freaking out, right? Then we realized that, they got the Golden Dome, and literally every single missile is being intercepted. We're like, yeah, you're not a threat whatsoever.
Yeah, but before we got to that, you and I were already talking in WhatsApp, and we hadn't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah.
And I remember you're like, yo, they hit this hotel over here or whatever.
Yeah, it was debris. Well, the news came out, and it was, what happens is there was debris that hit the Fairmont and also the Burj Al Arab.
But it was so new that nobody knew that it was debris. They thought it had gotten hit.
Yeah, it hit, but it was actually debris. So here I am on the day before last, before we were supposed to leave. I was at the St. Regis in Dubai, and right on the marina, and I'm like, you know what, screw it. My buddy that lives there. I'm like, listen, I'm hungry. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, let's go find something to eat. So we walk out to the main marina, and we grab. They have the scooters like in most major cities. So we rented a couple of the scooters.
Yeah, what do you call those? The ones that are two-wheeled? It used to be in Epcot. It was only the securities who had it when it first came out. Yeah.
So we're flying up and down the marina at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's indoors, and we're like flying around, the city of Dubai at 2 o'clock in the morning in scooters,
having a blast. I literally remember seeing that on social media because I was on top of it because I was worried about you, right? Yeah. And I'm looking, and all of a sudden I see him on those little things going, and I'm like, dude, this guy's crazy.
It was fun. We had a good time.
So how did you get out of Dubai? Because there was no flights being able to get out of Dubai, right?
So then I was supposed to fly out of Abu Dhabi. So I check out of the St. Regis, and I'm supposed to be checking out into the W in Yas Island. By the way, pretty cool hotel. Is right over the F1 track. So very cool hotel. But we were supposed to be there just for one night because we're supposed to fly out to Bangkok the very next day.
Right.
So we get to the hotel, cancel all flights, until further notice. We have no idea how long this is going to, last. The next day, we had to stay one extra night. The next day, I get a letter in the hotel saying with the flights that are possibly going to get out. So I grab bags. We head out to the airport. We get to the airport. There's about 3,000 people up front, and there's military personnel right at the doors, not letting anybody in. So I don't know why they reopened it because they weren't letting anybody in. Now, I do see that the people that are making it to the front are like the bellhops with the suitcases, right? The guys that are helping with the suitcases. So I grab $100 bill. I give it to one of the guys in the suitcase. Said, take all my suitcases all the way to the front. So he's like, yes, sir. So he takes his suitcase. And so I did is I follow him. So I get through the entire crowd and just following the suitcase guy. Yeah. And he makes it all the way to the front, and then to be stopped, and they're like, no, you're not coming in. And I'm like, listen, my flight's supposed to be taken off. I got to get in there. The guy that I was trying to speak to only spoke Arabic. My Arabic is not very good. So finally, somebody, tall guy from Australia, comes from outside. He's the guy in charge. You could tell because everybody's reporting to this dude. And obviously, he speaks English. He's from Australia. So I said, listen, I explained to him the whole situation. He goes, let them in. And I skipped the 3,000 people that were out front. I'm like, okay, we're in, right? Now, once we're inside, it's the first floor. And I'm like, okay, there's nobody in here. This is really cool, right? We take the elevator. That's arrivals. Departures is upstairs. So we take the elevator to go upstairs. We get upstairs. There's another 3,000 people upstairs.
Oh, no.
That's the reason why they're not letting anybody in. Nobody else fits upstairs. And the people upstairs, they're just people crying, obviously like a lot of women crying. And they're walking up to the counters, and they're just being given vouchers to go back to hotels. Like, go back to your hotel. Go back. Here's a voucher. Go back to a hotel. We're paying for your hotels. Go back to the hotels, right? So I make it to the front. I tell the guy, is this whole line for everybody, or is there a line for first class? Because I had first class seats. And they go over there and ask. So I go all the way. Again, I skip the line all the way to the front. And I go there, and I'm like, hey, I need some help. I'm getting very adamant, trying to use every sales skills that I have to, make sure that I get taken care of. Finally, the supervisor of the supervisor comes out because I'm like, I'm not leaving here until I speak to somebody who's going to help me, right? Persistence wears out resistance. So finally, somebody comes in and they're trying to make sure that there's no panic and there's nobody creating a scene. So they're like, they pull me to the side and they're like, we'll help you. And finally, they said, hey, listen, we're gonna help you, but this is gonna take a while. So just hang loose and just sit here for a minute. And so they took me all the way to the back. I'm like, they just want me to get away from the crowd, right? But I thought they weren't gonna help me. And sure enough, this lady comes back with my boarding passes, and we're able to go into the first class lounge, have some drinks, have some food, then board the plane. The minute we board the plane, I'm like, okay, this is good. Glass of champagne in hand. And all of a sudden, the pilot comes on the intercom and says, everybody off the plane fast. There's incoming missiles.
I remember
I'm
they were
like-
they shot some up in the airport.
I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, they're gonna shoot this planes. So everybody's rushing out. Then right as I'm making it to the door, the pilot comes back and says, okay, never mind, everybody back to their seats. We have a 5-minute window to take off. As we're taking off from outside the window, you see missiles going by. Whoosh.
Wow, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. But we made it safe. Once it said we've reached cruising altitude, I'm like, all right, we're good. You know, we're out of danger and on our way to Bangkok.
And Bangkok, of course, was fantastic.
Incredible.
From there on, your vacation was
We went back.
amazing. But that piece you will never forget for the rest of your
listen.
life.
It was my birthday, so I'm like, those were the biggest fireworks I've ever had for my birthday. You know?
Yeah, I bet. Big thump.
Yeah.
It was a big hoot.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So now let's flip gears, because that was an incredible story I want everybody to hear. But let's flip gears now and let's talk about what we're here to talk about, man.
Let's talk about it.
Every time that we talk, we're always going to have something good to say about sales. Obviously, there's a lot of experience here, but even you, and you're one of the best salespeople I know. It happens to me, it's happened to you, and it's going to happen to every single one of you out there. You're going to have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, even though, in my opinion, I always say there's no such thing as a bad week, a bad month. It's just a bad moment that you can't let go of, because if you reset, right? But regardless, you could have a string of bad moments, right? And still able to turn it back around, just out of curiosity, because I know the answer, but they don't. Right now, today is April what? 21st? Something like that. All right. Where are you currently at for the month?
As a sales agent, I'm at $731,000 for the month.
$731,000 in personal volume. We're not done yet. I'm willing to say that you're for sure going to cross $1 million.
Oh, for sure.
I think your goal is what, 1.2?
1.2.
Right?
Now, the reason why my goal is 1.2 is because the office budget is 1.2 amongst everybody. So I want to do the budget by myself.
So you said you would do the whole office budget by
myself.
yourself.
Yeah.
But just recently you had gone through one of those moments where things had slowed down for a bit, right?
For a minute, yeah. For like about a week and a half.
So,
which for me is a lot.
Right. So explain to people what you do in your mind to flip.
I mean, listen, and we've talked about this in other occasions in the office, but you know, I have something that I actually need to like trademark, right? But I call it the tripod of success, right? And basically what it boils down to, and you could self-diagnose, if you work in sales and you follow these 3 simple steps, it's impossible for you not to succeed. I mean, it's like the holy grail for sales. Okay, I call it the tripod of success. Like any tripod has 3 legs. If one leg falls, tripod falls, right? So this is why I call it the tripod of success. So there's 3 pillars, right? The first one is product knowledge. You got to know what you're selling. And I want everybody out there to think for 1 second. Just pause and think about whatever product you sell. I don't care whether you're selling shoelaces, whether you're selling cars, whether you're selling, real estate, whatever is it the product you're selling. Do you know your product? And be genuinely honest with yourself, right? Because some people go, oh yeah, I know the product.
Ask them the question that you always ask.
So normally say, hey, if I run right now a quick quiz, 30, 40 question quiz, and your job depends on it, whether you pass or you don't pass, how comfortable do you feel that you would pass a product knowledge test? So, you have to know what you're selling. If you don't know what you're selling inside and out, you're missing sales. You're missing sales for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. And some people say, oh, I just got to know the gist of it, and I can wing it. Possibly, but if you really want to be good at your craft and get really good, you have to know your product inside out, right? If you don't know your product inside out, you're dead in the water. So the first pillar is product knowledge. The second pillar is salesmanship. Okay, always be closing, right? Telling is not selling. Okay, you have to, as you're progressing through your sales process, you have to do trial closes, and you have to always constantly be closing and closing and closing, and getting rid of all the objections along the way where you're doing something called funneling. And what I mean by funneling is you're getting rid of all the objections and you're funneling down to money and money only. So that the only thing that's going to prevent those people from purchasing is just the money. Nothing else. Everything else has been already handled and the objections have been put aside, put to bed. And the only thing left to talk about is money, right? Dollars and cents. Now you can start negotiating a transaction, right? So product knowledge, salesmanship, and the third, it's probably the most important one, and it's your head, okay? Sales is an industry. Let's think about it for a second. Since we are in kindergarten, we're taught that in order for you to succeed in school, what's a good grade? An A or a B? What percentage-wise, what would that be? 80%? 80% or higher. So in school, if you want to be a B or higher student, you have to succeed 80% plus of the time. Anything below 80%, you're technically considered a failure in life. Because we're going through school and every single course that we ever take, they want to see 80% or better. Okay? Now all of a sudden you get into the sales field. Okay? And most sales jobs that pay really well, they pay really well because they're challenging. Right? So a good closing percentage in a lot of sales environments, not every sales environment, but in a lot of sales environments, a good closing percentage would probably be about 20%, maybe 30%. That means if you're closing 20, 30%, you're killing it. So you have to literally rewire your brain so that if you're failing 80% of the time, you're a success. Now, think about that for just a second. It's not that easy. And that's what kills most people when you talk about your head. Because I've seen people that have went on a roll, right? Had a 30% success rate. And by the way, you don't know when a buyer's coming in or when a non-buyer's coming in. They come in out of 100.
Yeah, the numbers aren't perfect.
No, out of 100 ups, you might go, and this is when it gets tricky. You might go, it's hard to go 0 for 70, right? And then go 30 in a row. That would be ideal, right? Because you go, okay, I got the 30 out of the way. I know the next 70 are going to be
whatever.
Right?
Yeah,
that would be ideal, but you don't know. You have to. If you knew who the buyers and the non-buyers are, they would pay you $1 million. They would pay you $1 million to stand at the door and say, you can come in, you stay out. You can come in, you stay out. If
like
you
a
can pick
VIP
them.
security guard.
Right, if you can pick them, right?
No.
So nobody can pick the buyers.
Right.
If you could, they'd pay you obscene amount of money, right? So, you can't prejudge and you have to go out there and you got to do your best. But I've seen a lot of times somebody who, again, maybe you go 0 for 20 and it just so happens that's part of, and now you're following process, right? Because you have to have a process and you have to stick to your process and you have to be consistent. And that's the key to the success in sales is you have to be consistent with your process. Once you find a process, then it's been proven and you're succeeding 30, 40% of the time, there's no need to change anything. You just have to stick to your process and believe in the process. And yes, sometimes you might go X amount of ups, X amount of customers that are going to come through your doors and they're just going to say no. And those are part of the non-buyers, right? But it starts messing with your head because if you fail, you could be failing 80% of the time. You're considered a success. You just got an enormous check. But mentally, you think of yourself as a failure because you just failed 80% of the time. Okay? If you want to be good in sales, and here's the thing, I've been doing sales my entire life, so I no longer think of that process. For me, it's, and I think
it's
it also,
inevitable.
To me, it's not part of it. But I see it all the time with people that are new in the business or in any kind of sales environment, that if all of a sudden, if they go hot, right, and they get a bunch of sales, and then all of a sudden the non-buyers come through the door and they start freaking out. So what happens? They start changing process. They start changing things. And before you know it, they've changed things so much that that soup that they just recreated of your sales presentation, your pitch, nobody can understand it because you changed so many things because you started second guessing yourself, right? So the key with it is to stay consistent, follow your process and believe in your process. That way you know it's gonna succeed. But staying positive and knowing that it's just part of the process, right? I got back from vacation, and typically when I go on vacation, I normally come back and I'm on fire because I got stories to tell, right? You know, so again, it's like you have content. For me, going on vacation is like it's like work because I have to go create new content, right? It's like let me show you where I went and what you can do, and it gets people so excited about wanting to go to all these different places. They're like, show me how I can do this, right? So, but I come out straight from vacation and I went like 10 days in a row without a single transaction. Now, keep in mind, I was gone for like a month. So now a month not working, and then you come back and all of a sudden you're like nearly.
And not only that, and you come back expecting to start swinging.
Yeah, you're gonna swing. You know, you're gonna swing and you're gonna like hit one home run after the next.
And normally you're like what 50%, 60% on average.
On an average, I'm normally between 40 and 50%.
Right.
And now I'm like all for like 20, all for 30, right? All for 20, I think. And that's it. But again, I didn't panic. You know, ironically, my superiors say, "What are you doing? Get back in the game." I'm like, "Listen, nothing's changed.
Relax.
Don't worry, relax.
Yeah, relax.
It's gonna come. You know, I'm not worried, so you shouldn't be worried, right?" So sure enough, those few non-buyers came through the door, and I just had 18 deals in a row. So I had 18 guests, 18 transactions, with a huge average transaction. Like you said, I'm up. I think I'm up 731,000, with the goal being 1.2. So not too bad.
Do the math, guys.
Yeah, that pays okay.
Yeah.
Pays all right.
He's going to make what some people would like to make in a year. He's going to make this month. And that's not even including the end of year bonuses that'll put you over.
Yeah.
Including that, you'll probably end up making 2 or 3 times what many people would like to make in a year.
In a month. Yeah.
In 1 month.
Yeah. Not too bad.
Fire.
Not too bad.
So, all right. So let's resume what we were saying. Tripod of success then.
Right. So you got product knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Know your product. If you don't know what you're selling, you're dead in the water. Salesmanship. Know how to close. If you don't know how to close, read books. Go on YouTube. Okay. Ironically, out of the last podcast we did, I've had a ton of requests on Instagram. People hit me up randomly saying, "Hey, heard your podcast. Could you mentor me? Could you help me?" Right? And I love to help people. So I've actually reached out to a few people and actually have given them some helpful hints, and they were very appreciative. So again, salesmanship, and then finally your head. You got to stay positive. You got to understand that the no's are your friend. All the no's that you get that means you're close. You're one step closer to a yes. But you have to have, you've heard the saying, practice makes perfect. That's not necessarily the case, because if you're practicing something that's not perfect, all you're doing is practicing imperfection.
Right.
Okay. Perfect practice makes perfect. Right. So once you get down your presentation where it's flawless, then that's what you have to continue to hammer. Okay. And you have to have the delivery. The other part of it is a lot of people say, "Hey, can you teach me?" I'm an open book. I don't keep anything from anybody. Anybody who knows me from the industry, people come and say, "Can I ride with you?" I say, "Sure, come. You could see my entire sales process. You could ride with me and you could see everything." And once they go through it, they go, "That was freaking amazing," right? But it's not the content. In sales, content is only 4%. The other 96% is the delivery. And that's the tricky part, okay? Because I could show you everything, but how you go and deliver that information, that's the secret sauce.
100. And not only that, you got to make it your own. You got to take the parts of it that are in alignment with you. You know, when you were saying before, listen, if you know what you're closing and you know what your numbers are, then you're good. You don't change anything. He means if you're already closing good,
Yeah.
and you've got a pitch that works,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because if you're still working on it, and you're going through something bad, don't just stop there. You know what I mean? Obviously. But if you're already somebody who's been doing it long enough to where you know your pitch works, you know that nothing changes. The numbers are the numbers. It's just that the numbers aren't perfect. If you close, 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10, it doesn't mean, like he was saying, that all 4 are going to come at the same time, or that, you might get 6 of them saying no in the beginning. You just don't know exactly. You just got to know that over a long period of time, it works itself out. Correct. And if you know what you're doing, then don't freak out. Now, if you know you need some help, that's a different story. Well, then get the help. Find the mentor. Read the books. Take the seminar. Do whatever the hell you got to do, whether it's up here in your mindset or whether it's in your skill set, or whether it's if it's product knowledge. There's not much. It's not very difficult. You just study your damn product, right? And it's not only what he's saying that, well, if you took a test, would you pass it? It's not would you pass it, would you ace it? Because you want to show the person that you're an authority
exactly
in that subject. And the only way you'll be authority is if you can ace that, if you can run circles around everybody else, right?
That's right.
All right. So we've got the tripod of success. Now you guys got the tripod of success. How about, let's take a little turn, man. Last time you gave us some really crazy stories from Vegas and from Mexico. And whatever you're comfortable with, doesn't have to be anything.
There's a lot of stuff that we can't.
Right.
We just can't talk about.
No. Yeah. Anything that you feel comfortable speaking. The thing is that you've been in this one specific industry for so long that you've literally been in every position that has to do with sales, right? So you can talk about it from a leadership perspective. You can talk about it from a middle management perspective. You can talk about it as a sales perspective. But,
ironically, people always want to figure out how they can make the most amount of money. And let me tell you something. If you work in sales, you're blessed, especially if you're good at it. Because unless you're going to go be an incredible attorney, unless you're going to be a brain surgeon, because not even doctors. I have friends that are doctors right now that work at the ER in Mount Sinai, and they don't make a fraction of what I make. What I'm going to make this month, they'll make for the year. And they're doctors. So again, unless you're an authority on a specific field and you go out and you become incredible at a specific field, it's hard. Listen, sales is the only thing where you really have, you might have a cap with a certain degree, right? Based on whatever product you're selling.
Right.
But there's certain sales fields where, sky's the limit, I don't know any other job that I can go do that I can make 7 figures. I know this is called the 6-figure podcast.
I'll take 7.
But for me, it's 6 monthly.
Right.
Right. So this is the only job that I know that I could do 7 figures on a year and not have a college degree or not go be, the best architect in the world. Right. So, be thankful that if you work in sales, be thankful for what you have, because that's one thing that I always say is that I pitch to everybody, including my own daughters, and I said you have to have the attitude of gratitude. So the first thing you got to do is you got to believe in God, and every single day when you wake up you got to pray. Because the first thing I do is I meditate and I pray when I get up, and I give thanks for all my blessings, because there's so many people. Listen, most people, if you think you're having a bad day, your bad day as we were just discussing when I got here, right? My bad days are most people's what? Dream days, right? So you have to have the attitude of gratitude and always be thankful, but understand that if you work in sales, sky's the limit. You can make as much money as you want, depending on how lethal you become, how good you become at your craft, right? And there's a right way and a wrong way. Listen, and I got to tell you something.
Let's go, bro. Let's go. This is the no bullshit six-figure sales podcast.
So this is the part that aggravates me, right? So there's a lot of people in different sales industries that they feel that they have to cheat and lie and do whatever they got to do to
in our industry
to make it happen.
Come on,
to make it happen. And I have no respect for people that choose to take that route. Because, you know what the crazy part is? If you're going to go sell a lie, you still have to go sell it. So they're just choosing to do it the wrong way because you still have to go sell something, right? Whether it's the truth or whether you're selling not the truth, you have to go sell something, right?
And I wanna be very clear. I want you people to understand because I know Carlos very, very well. All the numbers that we're talking about, all of the money that we're talking about, he pitches clean. I'm talking about you could have the vice president of the company sit next to you and listen to you do your whole presentation. There is nothing that he says in there that is not real, that is not true. It's just skill and salesmanship, which is, in this industry, there's a lot of people that are truth stretchers.
Yeah, that's to make it sound pretty. But
yeah.
So, but yeah, listen. Bottom line is this: okay, be grateful. And there's you're gonna have a good time. Sales is all about having a good time. If you're not laughing with your clients, if you're not having a good time, you're not doing your job. So if you hear somebody who's having a good time in an office and you hear laughter and you hear jokes going on, those people are having a good time because you know what? You're building trust. Those people trust you and they like you. They don't have to like you. They have to love you. Because if they're going to go spend 6 figures with you, it's because they love you. It's not because they liked you. It's because they love you. So you got to become a pretty lovable person, So work on your skill, work on your craft. Now, let's talk about the, you say you want to talk about the
something fun.
Fun. So there's a lot of stuff that unfortunately we can't, for many reasons, we can't discuss in a podcast. But all I can tell you is this. Everybody's seen the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Right, of course.
Pretty intense movie, right? So pretty crazy movie. I went with a buddy of mine when it first came out to the movies. And on the first 15 minutes, he turns around and he goes, "Is this movie about your life?" I'm like, "No, it's not." So, but yeah, listen, I've had a good time. Needless to say, I started in this industry really young. Okay. And when you're young, you tend to do stupid things. I know as a fact, I have guardian angels, not one, multiple, because it takes multiple guardian angels to keep me alive.
One wouldn't have been enough.
No, one, there's no way that one is enough to keep me alive, right? Listen, I started making 6 figures in 1997. 1997, if you think about, that's almost 30 years ago. I've been doing this for 30 years, but my second year in the business, actually, that's not true. My first year in the business, I did 106,000. So since day one, I've done 6 figures, right? But I was 20 years old, 21 years old when I first started in the business. 20 years old. So imagine being 20 years old, and again, inflation adjusted. On my second year in the business, I made $376,000. This was about 28 years ago. So $376,000
with that money at that age.
Yeah, at 20, imagine 20. Again, 378. I don't even know what inflation adjusted would be. 378, 30, almost 30 years ago would be today. But I can tell you it's probably well over $1 million. Imagine giving a 20-year-old kid now $1 million, and again, you have no responsibilities, nobody to tell you what to do, and it's just like, and you live in Miami. Again, I could tell you stories for days.
In Miami 30 years ago.
Yeah, 30 years ago in Miami.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah. My first real car, I had a black convertible Ferrari when I was 21. So I used to drive around on a convertible Ferrari.
That was your first hoopty?
That was my first hoopty. Right? Then after that, I got a titanium gray one. Then I got a Lamborghini. But my first car was this. My first real, I call it real car, right? It was a convertible black Ferrari. I'll tell you this story because this was funny, and this one I can tell. So I go out, and my first big check. I'm talking about, it was big. I mean, even big for today's standards, not for 30 years ago. I walk into the bank, and like the idiot 20-year-old that I was, said, "I'd like to cash this." The lady at the cash at the teller looks at me like, "Are you freaking crazy? Like, you want to walk out of here with that much cash?" Right? And it was, at the time, I want to say the check was for like something like 27 grand at the time. I said, "Yeah, I want all the cash." She goes, "We don't have that kind of cash. You're going to have to come back in a few hours." And I said, "Okay, when do you want me to come back?" He goes, "Come back at 2:00. We'll have the money for you." Sure enough, I go, they had to order it, right? I come back at 2:00 and they cashed the check. They had to, right? And I walk out of that bank with $27,000 in cash. I hop on my black Ferrari and I drive home. Stash some money and then put like that much cash in my pocket. And it's a Wednesday night. And anybody who's been in Miami for a long time knows that Wednesday night in the late 90s, there was a restaurant called The Forge, okay? And they had a club next to it called Jimmy Z's.
Yes.
Jimmy Z's in Miami was like Studio 54 in New York. There was a guy at the door named Oliver J, who was actually a buddy of mine. I still know him to this day. But it was this. He used to be a model, tall French dude, and he had a clipboard, and there was a red velvet ropes, and there was no line. People would just stand up front, and he would just go, you, and you come in. Right? And that's how they selected who got to go inside. Well, I used to go every single Wednesday night, and the guy who ran the place, whose name is Tony Guerra, one of my really close friends, and I also knew Oliver, so they used to park my black convertible Ferrari right in front, and I used to walk in like if I owned the place, but I would walk in and, literally whatever that stash of cash I would take on a Wednesday night, no problem, all gone. I was a big spender.
Whoa.
But I'd walk out of there, and 9 out of 10 times, the cops knew me. When the cops were finishing with their round, they'd come inside, I'd buy them drinks. I walk out of there, not in a driving condition, which is very irresponsible, and I don't condone drinking and driving, but I would walk out of there and do donuts, in front of the place. Just absolutely nuts. And I don't know how I'm still alive. Like I said, I got multiple guardian angels looking after me. There's days I would get home and I'm like, how the hell did I even get home? Right? Again, very irresponsible. But that's what happens when you give that much money to a 20-year-old, right? But the funny story is, one day I was living in Aventura, and one day I'm driving up Collins Avenue after a long night. It's probably like 3 a.m. And my car, the entire dashboard of my Ferrari lights up like a Christmas tree. Some kind of a electrical issue, and all the lights start popping up. Car completely stalls. So now I'm like, oh crap. I'm like half drunk, pulling over to the side on Collins on A1A. Okay. Here comes a car with 6 girls with tiny little dresses and stilettos who see a guy in a black suit in a convertible Ferrari stuck. So they all stop. The funniest thing, I wish there was social media. I wish, the bad part about growing up and partying in the 90s is that there's no evidence. There was no social media.
The bad and the good part.
The good and the bad, right? But I wish to this day that there was some way somehow to capture this moment when there was 6 girls in in high heels, in tiny little dresses, while it's starting to rain, pushing my Ferrari,
Oh my God.
and I'm behind the wheel, and they're pushing it, so I can pull it into the parking of the uh, um, the whatever there was like a station there, and I pulled it in there, right? The mail, there was a mail station there, so I pulled it in there, and I just locked it up, and they took me home, and we continued the party at my house. With 3 lovely girls, 6 lovely girls. The car was so to get in. They had to sit on my lap because they all didn't fit in the car.
That's
so
horrible.
It was horrible stories. Yeah, so that's one that's I could tell like this and
For the books.
Yeah, there's other ones that cannot be discussed here. I'll tell you another one really quick. On same place, everybody that's around our age probably remembers because this was made the news. But remember Carmen Electra?
Sure.
She was dating Dennis Rodman,
Okay.
and Dennis Rodman was crazy.
Very crazy.
When he was
married
playing
himself once, remember?
Right, when he was playing for the Chicago Bulls, right?
Yeah.
Well,
He's friends with Kim Jong-un, as a matter of fact.
yeah. So I have a table at Jimmy Z's, and on the table, and I'm talking about this close, like we are. Here is Carmen Electra and Dennis Rodman on the table next to me. So we start chit-chatting. We hit it off. I'm dancing with Carmen Electra. That night, they got into a fight and they got arrested. I was there that night with them when they got arrested for like a like a assault charge or something between the two of them. But that's another funny story. Yeah. So.
Oh, but you got to dance with her.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got to dance with Carmen Electra. So yeah, that was fun.
So Carlos, here's one that I kind of want to. So there's a lot of sales trainers out in the industry, and some are good and some aren't, and whatever. Now, I'm sure you don't know this because this is out in the training world, right? There's a big fight and argument over the script guys and the non-script guys. I've always been a script guy. I love scripting. My view is that when you get so good at scripting and it becomes your own, you're not even really scripting anymore because now it's part of you,
You own the script.
Right. But anyway, there's all these different schools and stuff. And one of them, which, by the way, is somebody that I respect immensely because the guy's a beast. It's just he's taken this one route that has to do with that. But the one thing is he's getting everybody and he's filling everybody with this thing of, hey, you're gonna make 100,000 a month. You're gonna make 100,000, which is great, bro. I mean, it's great to have that drive. It's great to have that kind of a goal. But for example, one of the reasons why I call this a 6-figure sales podcast is because there's a lot of people who haven't even gotten to that
it goes
part
by
yet.
stages. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So what do you think about? I don't want to say fooling. I don't think he's fooling the people. I just think that for a fact there's only so many Carlos Rodriguez's around. You know what I mean? It's great to have you as a goal to say, I want to be like this guy. Sure. But when you first start, you got to get here first before you can get there, because if not, you're setting yourself up for failure. You know what I mean? What do you think about something like that?
I mean, listen, it's funny you say that because I remember when I first started in the business of hearing that there were some people that had left the resort that I work at to go to Orlando because they were going to get paid to be a manager. They were going to get paid $20,000 a month. Now, I was like, that was in my first year, which I made $106,000. And I said, my God, $20,000 a month, that's what? That's that's like almost $250,000 a year. I already thought 100 was a lot back then. I was like, I wouldn't even know what to do with like, what do you do with that kind of money, right? So but here's the thing. So it's a double-edged sword what you're talking about, right? Because I don't know who the person that you're talking about is, but he may not mean it or in a bad way, right? Because I believe that there's mental barriers, Okay. There's people that, and again, listen, it took me a while to realize, like, for example, I would hit, I'll tell you a good example. I remember when a big month was 300K in a month, a big month. And if you hit it, it was like you've achieved, you got there. That was the goal. I remember doing 346 and I had the company record worldwide at the time. That was back in 2002. And I remember breaking it shortly after for 376, and that was just an extra 30,000. And I was like, oh, everybody was like, whoa, right? Because it hadn't been done. And just like that, somebody wrote 500, and 500 became the new norm.
Roger Bannister, 4-minute mile.
All of a sudden, that's what they call raising the bar, right? The minute somebody hits, it's like somebody could be running, like you said, running a mile, running a quarter mile in this, right? And until all of a sudden somebody breaks that record, and then everybody starts hitting that record, right? Because it's all here, right? It's all in your head. But there's a lot of mental barriers, and it's, listen, that's the part that is part of the tripod of success, that it has to do with your head, that is removing those mental barriers, right? Believing that you could do whatever you want. Right now, again, I'm having probably one of the best months of my career. I'm running, unfortunately, until today. Today I broke it. I was 18 for 18.
100% close rate.
But again, if you think about saying something like that, somebody would be like, no, impossible.
He's full of shit.
He's full of shit. Nobody closes 100%, right? And sure enough, I broke the 100% streak today. But still, to think about even finishing a month at anything over 80% and making it real and realizing.
And in this business, because there's other businesses where 40 or 50 or 60% is the top of the top.
Right. But there's mental barriers, right? So somebody may say, you could do 100K a month in income. You could do 100K. And they may mean it with the best intentions in the world. But as an individual, you have to learn to overcome those hurdles. And like I said, you got to crawl before you walk, before you run, before you fly, right?
Yep.
You're not going to just take off and start flying, and if you never crawled, if you never walked. So, be happy with the stages, right? Just because you see somebody doing something, I used to have a screensaver on my phone, and I got to find it because I need to put that in. I have my daughter. My daughter's have my screensavers now, but I used to have a screensaver for years that it said me against myself.
There we go.
I don't compete with anybody. I don't. Because, again, are they doing it the right way? Are they doing it the wrong way? I know that I could sleep at night because I know that I want to do it with conviction, but I also want to do it with integrity, right? There's people that don't care about the integrity part of it. Okay, so again, I'm not going to compete with people that are out there doing it without integrity, and that literally they're looking at it as a 2-year run rather than a career, right? So I don't compete with anybody. For me, it's me against myself. So when I'm looking at, like, for example, one of the reasons why I want to do the 1.2 this month, and that's my goal, it's not because of the money. Don't get me wrong, the money's amazing.
I'll take the money.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll take the money at the 1.2, right? But I'm doing it because I've already hit a million, right under 1,000,001. I think that's been like one of my biggest months. I haven't done 1,000,002.
So that's your record.
But again, me against myself. Okay. And also because of the bragging rights to say, hey, I did the entire site's budget by myself.
That's amazing.
So maybe I'll hit it. Maybe I won't. But here's the thing. If you're shooting for the stars and you land in the moon,
you'll do all right.
You're still doing okay, right?
Yeah.
So the goal is 1.2. But listen, I'm not going to cry if I finish at 1.1. You know what I mean? So if you can go make multiple 6 figures in 1 month.
Dude, that's nuts.
Again, like you said, is what most people want to make in a year, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you could do it in a month is great. But then is go do it again. Because here's the other part. We get complacent. The minute you go listen, if you're not laser focused and you're not thinking about a big number, right? If you're not saying and believing it and saying, I want to go make $3 million this year, you could make the proration of that in 1 month, but it takes a specific type of individual to go do it every month for 12 months consecutive to hit that annual number. That's not easy. Staying consistent and having the tenacity to push that hard. A lot of times you'll push hard for 1 month, maybe 2 months, but then you run out of juice. Because it's draining. It takes when you're speaking with people on a daily basis and you're dealing with that level of intensity, and you're up here running at 9,000 RPMs consistent, it's hard to stay there, right? So, but again, it's mental preparation to be able to stay there and not take your foot off the throttle.
You just remind me of an old Cuban gentleman who's not alive anymore, but he played a very played like a mentor part of my life, and he used to say in Spanish, but he would say, "It's not hard to get there; it's hard staying there." And it makes sense with everything they were saying. And here's another thing, you and I, we trade. We like trading, right?
Love trading.
And so I'm going to use a little bit of a trading analogy here. With the people that I've coached in the past, not just in this business, not just in New York City, but, when I was in the telecom business and before that, network marketing and in the language business, when I was building teams and stuff, and as I've been mentoring people, I realize that there are certain resistance zones that are very consistent, So before people hit 100 grand, that 75 to 90 area is always one of those zones where I see. Once they pass 100, right around that 130 to 150, that's another little resistance area. Mm-hmm. These are all mental.
Yeah, it's all mental.
Then you got like the 185 to 190 because they're going to be hitting. And it just keeps going. And people get stuck sometimes in one of these areas and they don't understand why they're getting stuck. And it's 100% mental.
I mean, look at the market. S&P 500 hit 7,000. Okay. That was at what? 50, right? Those are the numbers that are big round numbers.
Key levels,
right? Now all of a sudden it hit those numbers and from there it's skyrocketed from there. We're so far away from even upper Bollinger Bands. We're so overextended. I was reading this article today. It says that everybody knows who oh my God, I'm trying to blank now. Warren Buffett is, right?
Right.
Warren Buffett is probably known as the GOAT of Wall Street,
of investing.
Of investing. Like nobody's better than this guy. And there's the Warren Buffett indicator, which is the volume of all companies divided by the GDP, right? So, and that if that number is over 100%, typically, it's like when you're in a car and you start redlining, right? You're hitting. It's a danger zone, right? Every single time his indicator, the Warren Buffett indicator, has exceeded 100%, there's been not a correction. There's been a crash. Every time it's lit up, it was during the .com, the 2008 financial crisis, and one was at 104, the other one was at 126. Take a wild guess what the Warren Buffett indicator is today.
Where?
232%.
Ooh.
So talk about having a market that's overextended, right?
And if you want to talk weird stuff, because now we're talking charts, right? And we're talking indicators and we're saying, hey, typically when you hit this kind of resistance or it hits this level, what's weird is that there's always some type of event outside of the market that becomes the catalyst.
The catalyst, exactly.
To
whatever it may be, either to go up or to go down, right? But there's always a catalyst.
So you're like, look, whenever it hits this, you're going to see it happen. And then it's like, well, there's nothing. All of a sudden, boom, something happens.
There's news. There's something happened. There's a catalyst.
And there you go.
And there you have it. But I was reading it he started liquidating all his assets from Berkshire Hathaway back in late 2024. He started with like 10%, currently he's like at 35% of Hathaway liquid. He's near 400 billion in cash currently. That's kind of scary. You know, that he's got that much cash sitting on the sidelines waiting. And the other one is being patient. The guy is very patient, right? So,
and he doesn't trade like us. I mean, he's an investor, very
long
term, and he buys companies that he likes, you know, and that he feels that there's a value gap.
His main companies are Apple,
Coca-Cola,
Chevron.
Yeah.
He's got, you know, all blue chip stocks, you know, so companies that have been around for a while and will be here before, you know, long after we're gone, right? But
which is another thing. So you've made a lot of money over the course of your life. In some parts, not knowing what the hell you were going to do with it. Now, obviously, a lot older, right? What's some good advice that we can close the podcast with to the guys that are starting to make the money? You can tell they're going to be doing well. They're going to start making money. They probably don't know what the hell to do with it, right? Because they're young.
So here's the thing. Biggest advice I can give anybody is start with 10% of your income. If you're in your 20s and you're working in, listen, Albert Einstein said that the power of compounding is the eighth wonder of the world.
Yes, sir.
If you don't understand the power of compounding, you have no idea how wealthy you could possibly be if you start early. So for those people that are working in sales that have been at it for a very short period of time and they're like in their early 20s, right? I would advise you put 10, 15%. If you could put 20, incredible. But at the very least, 10% of your money, put it into the S&P 500.
There you go.
And forget that it exists. Okay? The S&P 500 historically has been performing at what? Like 14% historically. Even at 10. Well, at 10 is that money is going to double every 7.2 years. And the power of compounding is at the beginning is not a lot, right? Because, you know, if you take $1 and you double it, now you have 2. Right? No big deal. If you 2, 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16.
But by the time you get to 30 days.
But when all of a sudden, once you get into the big numbers and you start compounding, when you go from 2 million to 4 million, from 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32 million, 32 to 64 million, that's when you have exponential growth, right? So the advice I can give anybody is don't be foolish like I was when I was younger, okay? And put some money away and don't touch it. Just make believe it doesn't exist.
Just like when the government pulls your money
your
out,
taxes.
Make sure that gets pulled out where you don't even see it. 10% of what you won't even notice it's gone.
Yeah.
And just let it go and trust us. And then the most important one, when the market goes down, don't freak out and pull your money out.
No, just leave it there.
It happens all the time. It corrects over time.
Everything goes up, everything goes down, but it continues to go up, you know, historically. But again, listen, if somebody who's in their 20s and by the time to get to be our age, right, and they're like now pushing 50, in 30 years, if you've been putting away 10% of your income in sales,
millionaires.
You'll have more money that you know what to do with into your retirement.
For sure.
Simple. You don't have to be a Warren Buffett. You don't have to be a wizard investor. Just put away 10, 15% of your income and just make believe it doesn't exist. That's it. There's no secret sauce. That's it. Simple.
Guys, my name is Coach CeeLo, and I have helped thousands of salespeople reach, attain, maintain 6 figures. Carlos, thanks so much for having you.
Thanks for having me again.
We're out of here.